for this tool because it isn't an entirely free tool. So in this case, I have my description here. So I asked Adobe Firefly what I wanted. I want a short video showing the process. So I want a whisking, a vibrant green matcha, pouring steamed milk, and then some latte art. I like to have that in there. And my caption idea is this, bright, earthy, and cozy. I gave that in there as well because that actually helps me to prompt the AI with what should come out in my video. And you already saw my little video play here. So that is what I got from AI. So that looks really good. Then what I will do is I can put everything together and put that ready in my post. My Instagram post is ready here. I've added my video, the caption that I had created, and I did all of this with these tools. Now, content creation, as you can tell, is getting a lot easier with Gen AI. And I showed you how to do it with these tools that you may already be using. But some people may be using more specialized marketing tools. And in the poll, we asked you, right, what kind of tools you're using. It may be general generative AI tools like the ones that I just showed you, but there are also very specific marketing tools like, for instance, Jasper AI or Buffer or Hootsuite. They have these elements of AI built in so that you can create your content there, but also immediately post it to the different platforms that you have a presence in. So that's something you can do, but those will typically not be free. What you'll also find nowadays that when you use Instagram and Facebook, for instance, that increasingly they have this AI tools built in. So if you see that on your route to creating these things, absolutely try it out, right? So I think you should experiment with all these options because they're really helpful and they can help you create beautiful posts. So that's the content creation side. Now, there's also a lot that we need to do around making sure that our content is seen by the right audiences. And you may remember from courses, or if you haven't taken the course, it's just kind of typically how we look at targeting is kind of has two elements, right? One is you really first have to understand your audience. You, as a marketer, need to know who you would really want to reach with your content. So that's one aspect of targeting. The other piece is then once you know who your audience is, you have to find a way to find them, right? So how are we going to get to them? So keeping your audience in mind is key to social media marketing success. And AI can help us with that. It can help us really understand our audience a little bit better than we otherwise ourselves could. And one of the things it can help you with, for instance, is really get a little more detail behind your target persona, your customer persona, give you some customer voice ideas, and generate some audience insights for you. So you may know that in our courses we talked about how you would typically define your audience by describing their demographics, and then you would also create a customer persona that a little bit in kind of in a bit more detail describes who that person really is. Who are they? What are the challenges they face? What are the typical behaviors we see of that customer persona? And you will already start to define that typically in your customer persona when you put that in kind of your preparation for your social media marketing. But once you have that, you can go to a tool like ChatGPT and ask it to help you understand that persona just a little bit more. Say, for instance, I could say, I'm creating a customer persona for a 25-year-old woman in New York who loves fitness and healthy food. You describe her goals a little bit more, challenges, online behavior, and preferred social platforms. So I know who my person is. It's that person who loves fitness and healthy food. And I think that they'll love maybe a coffee shop. But now I'm asking ChatGPT, like, hey, help me out, describe the goals, challenges, their online behavior a little bit in more detail. And ChatGPT will return lifestyle details. They can elaborate on pain points, habits of this person. So you can really use this as like a almost a brainstorming partner around your persona. How does ChatGPT do that? Well, it just has a vast amount of data that it can go through that help you get more insights into who this person really is. Same if you want to get a little bit more insight into how your target persona would really talk. Because sometimes we have this, like we have a good idea of our person in mind, but we don't really know what the exact voice is that would appeal to them or what they may use when, in terms of language, when they search for things online, for instance. So again, something that ChatGPT can help you. It can get a little deeper into the understanding. The other thing it can do is it can actually go into things like, so what trends are these people that I am looking at as my target audience? What trends are they eager to explore? Like, what are the things that they are interested in? That's another piece that ChatGPT can help me with. And it can give me then pointers to, okay, if these are the types of trends these people are into, maybe I should kind of jump on the bandwagon and maybe create a video related to a trend on TikTok. Or I may create a video related to a new trend that I see these people getting into. So that's something that can help you again with post ideas, with getting your posts to fit closer to your customer persona. Now, we also want to maybe at some point target these people with advertising. So at some point you may feel like, hey, I actually I'm kind of maxed out on the reach that I get from my organic social media marketing, right? All the stuff that I've been doing for free. And now I would like to get more people to kind of see something about it. For instance, my coffee shop. And I want to do that with advertising. That can actually, again, be something where AI can help you quite a bit. You can use a platform like Meta's Ads Manager, for instance. You can provide it with demographics and insights that you have of the people that you would like Meta to show your ad to. But Meta Ads Manager has a lot of powerful AI built in that you can use as well. So instead of just going through, here are the demographics, here are the interests of the people that I want you to show my ad to, you could use something, what they call in Meta's Ads Manager, Advantage Plus ads. So that's Advantage Plus targeting. What they really do there is Meta uses kind of all interactions that people have with your content, like any likes, shares, signups, purchases, all of those things become signals to Meta. And then the AI will look at those signals across millions of users to find patterns. So, for example, people who buy eco friendly shoes will often follow hiking pages, or people who sign up for online courses often watch productivity videos. Those patterns will tell the AI that there are groups with kind of similar behaviors. And those are going to be the groups that the AI will try to target for you. So once the AI understands who your current customers are, it can then go and find people who look like them online. And you may have seen this in our courses already, and we've talked about this quite a bit. And you may say, well, how is that new, right? Because is that really what AI does for us now? It is new in that the targeting is getting a lot more sophisticated than it used to be. So it can really get to helping you find that very specific audience that will be interested in your product, and it can do that at scale. And it can do it now because there's just way more data it can analyze at the same time. So, and as a result, it just gets way better at finding you the right audience at the right time. So that is something that can help you really scale beyond the audience that you already know. Now, using this embedded AI in something like Ads Manager is really going to work a lot better than your own intuition. Because sometimes you may feel like, hey, I kind of like to be in control. I like to do this manually. In the end, really what AI can do for us is something that the human mind cannot quite handle itself. So if you encounter these opportunities to use AI, like for instance with Advantage Plus ads, I would say try to go for it because you'll see that actually your results are going to be quite remarkable. It can achieve a lot. So definitely worth to try out. And AI isn't only going to help you find your right audience, it can also help you improve your campaigns. It can help them optimize them on the fly, basically. So, what you can do now is you can test multiple versions of your campaigns at once. And actually, the AI will spot for you what's working and then kind of put all of your budget in your campaign into that area that works really well. So let's look at an example of how this actually works. So imagine I am again at my coffee shop, right? So I have a coffee shop idea. I have a picture of a coffee cup, and I'm asking Meta AI to help me out with making this ad look a little better. You can do that right in Ads Manager. So Meta can give you a few backgrounds for this ad, for instance, and you change some of the captions. You have this image with different backgrounds, and now you can run a campaign where Meta AI is going to test different versions of this ad for you on the fly. And when it sees that one of these ads is doing pretty well, it will make sure it serves that ad more often. But what's more, it can actually see like, hey, this ad with this background does well with that particular caption. So I'm going to mix and match and putting these things together, making sure the very best ad is going to come in front of your audience. And you may say, well, but that sounds very similar to A/B testing that we've described before. Some of you may remember that in the course, I said, well, when you're going to do A/B testing, make sure you test only one thing at a time, because otherwise you don't know anymore what worked well and what didn't work well. That actually has changed now. Now you can actually just rely on AI to test it all together for you, and it will figure it out. So when we do this with our own kind of human mind, we can kind of do an experiment and find one thing that works better. We can say background A works better than background B, but it's very hard for us to figure out, does background A work better together with this caption or that caption, background B together with that call to action? That's actually something that AI can do for us. So definitely worth optimizing your campaign using AI. Again, something that's built into tools like Meta's Ads Manager. So as you go through the process, you'll just encounter it and you can just say, oh yeah, sure, do that for me, please. That's helpful. Then, of course, AI also helps us to make faster decisions. And in the past, kind of marketers often had to wait days or even weeks to get results from a campaign. You'd launch something and then you wait until enough data come in before you make changes. And that means that if something wasn't working, you could lose a lot of money because you kind of know it after the fact, right? When it's already done. So AI now makes decision making much quicker by giving us a real-time dashboard. So you can see right away if people are clicking, liking, or buying something. It can give us automatic alerts. So AI can flag us if something isn't working. And it can also give us smart recommendations. So you'll see that throughout tools that Meta offers us that really suggests what to change on an ongoing basis. And it's of course possible to indicate in your settings that you let Meta Ads Manager, for instance, immediately make the changes it recommends, which is something you can now do that really you couldn't do before. So decision making and changes and optimizing can go really, really fast. So definitely helpful for us. Now, with all of that, you may now be asking, like, well, so there's AI, and I'm the social media marketer. So what's my role really, right? Or how does this really work all together? Well, AI is actually your really powerful helper for social media marketers. It can help you with content creators, so create faster. You can target smarter. It makes it easier to optimize, and you can decide quicker. But AI can still not replace you. Your role is really to set the goals, bring the creativity, and make sure that your what you publish is actually accurate and is on brand. So AI's role is to speed things up, test what works, and crunch the data for you. But think of it really as having a really, really smart assistant, but you're still going to be the strategist. I often say kind of you're kind of the architect of it all, right? You are in the driving seat, but AI is going to help you, and you should embrace its help because it can really be very helpful for us. Um, Today, of course, we focused on the more general AI tools. So I talked about ChatGPT, we suggested Canva AI or Firefly. And these are great for brainstorming, writing captions, creating quick visuals. But there are, of course, also these marketing specific AI tools that will help you go deeper, cover the whole workflow. So things like Jasper Copy AI, Hootsuite, for instance, They often come at a price, but they may be worth it as a tool. But as you grow in your career, you'll likely see a mix of these. You can use both the free ones, get some quick wins, and then later start using these professional tools as well. But that's kind of really the overview that I wanted to give you of what I see as the status today of social media marketers using generative AI in their day to day. And with that, I would like to thank you for kind of paying attention to this presentation. There is a QR code that you can see here. That one has all of our social channels listed. So you can just snap a picture of that, and it will lead you to where you can follow Aptly and where we share more of our content. But with that, I thought we would open it up to our AMA, the questions that some of you have already sent in. Some questions may have come across in the chat. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can
Let's
hold
it up for just
hold it up a little bit more.
I just wanted to give a shout out to there's a lovely group of people who in the chat are looking to connect with one another and continue the conversation about AI and share. And I highly recommend that instead of creating your own group, because I hear there's a lot of that going on in the chat, that you join our Facebook group on Facebook. We'd love to have you there. I'm really appreciating also all of the LinkedIn links that people are sharing. I love to see people connecting, and we do have a really wonderful Facebook group for all of our learners. So please come on, join in. We're happy to address questions there as well, even well beyond this AMA. But I just wanted to give one more quick just update. And part of the reason why I'm really pushing folks to join our Facebook group instead of joining a group on their own is that we know there are lots of scams out there on the internet. And you can be sure that in our Facebook group, we're monitoring that, we're managing that. The team is there to help you along the way. And we can't guarantee that anywhere else. And so we really like to welcome you to our group and happy to help in any way that we can. But without further ado, I do want to get started on our questions. So I'm going to introduce the questions for Anka to ask. The team is going to be filtering the additional questions, but thank you so much to all of the people who took time to send in a question in advance of the webinar. We're super excited. There were so many great questions that came in. So Anka, our first question is, in what ways do you see AI playing a key role in the future of digital marketing?
Yeah, so I think, well, of course, we've covered quite a bit of this in the presentation, but what I think kind of some of the additional changes are that we're seeing is that one, so AI will make marketing as a whole just way more personalized than ever, right? And I touched on this a bit. So I said, like, hey, our targeting tools are getting so much more sophisticated, but it's really to a point where content can almost be tailored to really an individual's preferences, their behavior, and their mood in the moment. So I think that over time, you're going to see that even more so. So we're going to get more personalized marketing. And you may feel like, oh, well, that gets kind of close. Is that really right? I actually often feel like with these very personalized ads, I'd rather see those than one that doesn't really kind of help me with anything. So I think that's usually okay. Second, I also think that AI will reshape kind of our creative workflows, right? We'll see kind of an entire campaign be ideated and generated and optimized in real time. Humans will still set the strategy and bring kind of the cultural context around it, but we will see those creative workflows change. So a lot more use of AI to create the actual content or the actual ad that we put in front of people. And I also think that it will help drive predictive and autonomous marketing, right? So instead of just analyzing what worked in the past, systems will start to anticipate kind of what's likely to work next, and even auto-adjust campaigns while they're running. And I also think that AI will become a bit of an educational coach for marketers, right? So you can take a course like the courses that we provide, right? Where you get a really good baseline and you get a good kind of grasp on how to get started as a social media marketer. But social media marketing or any marketing area or also marketing analytics, actually, it kind of keeps changing. And you kind of need to stay up to date on all these things. And I think that AI can really be that educational coach for you, where you can ask it questions, make sure that you stay on top of things, on top of changes, and you're kind of the strategist, but AI helps you along, basically. So that's kind of where I think some of the digital marketing space will move with AI.
And I think this next question kind of feeds off of that question too in a lot of ways. So, how can AI assist marketing agencies in analyzing data and predicting future marketing demand or market demand?
Right. I think that it's true. It kind of relates because of course AI gives agencies a real edge in understanding data and predicting demand, right? So instead of manually crunching numbers, AI can scan millions of posts, comments, campaigns. It can kind of spot what the trends are out there, what the zeitgeist is, right? Like what kind of audiences are talking about, and it will help you then forecast. You can analyze past sales, you can analyze campaign data, seasonality, things that are really difficult. So you may know, some of you may have heard about marketing mix models or attribution models that we use in digital marketing. With AI, that can actually be taken a step further. And there's a lot more analysis that can be done that will make our understanding of what works and what doesn't work a lot better and predict what's going to work in the future. Right. So I think that that's really what we will see agencies use in the future as well.
And can you share some examples of companies using AI effectively for customer segmentation and content personalization?
Right. So I think well, there are many, of course, right? And one of the classics, I think, is of course Netflix. Many of us probably use it, right? So if I switch on Netflix, and even within our family, I use my profile versus my kid's profile or my husband's profile, we will all have a very different homepage and a recommendation page. And that is really because Netflix has learned using AI what I like, but also what people like me like, and therefore suggests these things at a very granular basis, right? You can really predict, okay, this is what Anke is probably going to like, and it often works out pretty well. Similar to, say, someone like Amazon, right? If you go on to Amazon, it will give you some products that you're probably going to like. Again, that's AI at work. It's very personalized, but it's not just looking at your past purchases. It looks at past purchases of people like you or people that have bought this. So it's all AI data that's working in the background. Spotify is another example. If you use Spotify, so the music app, it gives you this Discover Weekly list, right? And that list is really based on AI clusters of listeners that have really been clustered into these micro segments. So, based on taste, it builds on your individual kind of, yeah, but what you like and what it thinks other people like you will like, right? So, but it's really, really fine tuned. So that's another example. And then, of course, if you use Meta's Ads Manager, all the Advantage Plus that's built in there, that's all AI at work to further personalize your messages and to get the right ad in front of the right audience at the right time. So I think the big takeaway is really that AI is changing the targeting from targeting broad audiences. So think about our coffee example, right? I could just target coffee lovers in San Francisco, but AI will help us to be way more specific than that. So it can go for people that are really going to like that specific vibe of that coffee shop, specifically in Noe Valley, specifically for this weather pattern that we're experiencing this summer. So that's really what AI can do for us. So those are the types of examples I think where it's been used successfully.
Great. And so this, we're going to move on to just a slightly different topic here. So, and it's really more about how AI is affecting those of us who really like to be creative. So as AI increasingly handles ideation, generation, and optimization of content, where does the human creativity add the most value?
Yeah, it's a really good question, right? Because often we may think, and I actually showed you these examples, like, oh, AI can be your brainstorming partner, or AI can create your content. But I would say AI is really good at generating ideas and drafts and even optimize content. But human creativity is still kind of the secret sauce, right? So where humans add the most value is kind of first in the big picture, you set the strategy, you shape your brand's voice, and you bring kind of the cultural and emotional nuance to the AI. So AI can never really know what you have in mind with your brand. So think about brands, for instance. So we often, when we talk about brands in our courses, we say that brands have a story. They have their founder story. They have their a certain vibe that they want to bring across. And it's really only you knowing what that vibe is. Like AI cannot come up with that for you, right? It cannot do that. So it cannot quite know when it will get the tone exactly right, when it gives you examples, when it's brainstorming with you. So that's still your role. You have this bigger picture in mind of what you want to bring out there. That's what you as a human want to position yourself at. And you're still really uniquely positioned to do that because AI cannot read your mind in that way. Even if you give it a lot of information, getting it exactly right, nah, not so much. The other thing that it cannot do, which is really important, so it often doesn't get cultural nuances right or trends right. It's kind of it doesn't have the emotion or the empathy that we humans have, right? So, in that sense, it will make mistakes. And we're there as a human to correct those mistakes and to bring in our creativity, kind of the match between this is what's trending and this is the content I'm going to provide, and coming up with that real idea. That's still what we can do. It can suggest some things, but sometimes they'll feel like, ah, they're a little bland, right? So, we as humans put in that extra creative element. And I think that that's something that's really important. And kind of being that architect of things, that's really still where we come in. So I think that's still important.
And this next question is really, I think, comes really well after what you were just saying about trust and how much we can get from AI and where we sit as people in the creative process. So how much can we trust the place of AI for content creation on social media, and when should human community managers step in?
Yeah, that's another good question, right? Because we see a lot of like community management, customer service, lots of AI tools are being deployed there, right? And rightfully so, because sometimes if you have a really large community, you need someone to filter out the questions, right? Like, okay, which question gets answered and which one is really kind of a crisis kind of question, which one is one that's just a very regular question that with a good Q&A or a good FAQ document, right? A frequently asked questions, I can just answer it. I often can answer it automatically, and it feels very satisfactory to whoever asked the question because they're getting the right answer. But when you're dealing with something like a crisis or something that needs a little bit more emotion and empathy, these kind of community management tools with AI, they may get it wrong. So, where do we as humans kind of still come in as community managers, right? I think, first of all, of course, before you publish anything, and that's something I would say keep that in mind if you're going to do automated kind of answers, for instance. Make sure that those answers are actually good. If they were created by AI, make sure you have a way to figure out, okay, is it really right? Does this reflect my brand? Is it right language? Does it feel authentic, etc.? Right. So before publishing content, could be a post, but it could also be an interaction. Make sure that it feels right if you're using that AI generated piece. But then also during the engagement, of course, AI can help triage comments and say, okay, these are the ones that kind of seem to be a little bit more in need of a human to interact, right? Something emotional is happening, more empathy is necessary. That's where humans come in. And when there's really a crisis or a real cultural moment, it's important to watch for those things because AI won't, again, like it won't get the cultural references always. It won't always exactly know what's going on. Say what's going on in the news, what are big things that people feel maybe uncomfortable about. Like make sure that you drop that element into these interactions. And that's really something that humans have to do. So I would say that's where humans still come in. And even in our own community interaction, so Rebecca just mentioned, like, hey, join our Facebook group. We also have people at Aptly that interact with students on a daily basis. Like they're actual people behind the scenes. Yes, are there certain questions if you get stuck? Say, for instance, someone is following one of our courses on Coursera and cannot get into their account. Yeah, there's certain automatic ways to route that. But we try as much as we can, because of course there's millions of students. We try to make sure that we get where someone needs a person to help out, that we still get that person to help out. And that's also why we have these things like a Facebook group where we can try to at least interact more with students on a one-to-one basis or one-to-many in some cases, but at least get more of a real feel for what's going on behind the scenes.
We're going to switch a little bit to just some more practical tips for learners. We have a number of questions. And if you submitted a question that sounds a little bit like your question, it's because we kind of grouped them together. So for learners just starting out in digital marketing, what's the best way to experiment with AI tools without feeling overwhelmed?
Yeah, that's also a good question. I have to say that I myself feel overwhelmed with AI at times, and that's for two reasons, right? One is the AI tools themselves evolve all the time. There's like a new model and another model and another model, and I need to keep up with what's the change in all of these things. So I feel on that front, yeah, it's okay to take a breather. These tools evolve, but you will over time learn to experiment with some of them. It's fine. And then you get kind of overwhelmed with the different things that AI can do and the different types of tools that are there, right? So you've got like the general assistant, like ChatGPT, but you also have these kind of image tools or the video tools, etc., right? So how do I keep track of all of the things that are there? What I would suggest if I were just starting out, and actually it's still a lot of my own behavior as well, is choose a tool that you feel comfortable with. So that could be ChatGPT, Gemini, maybe you're comfortable with Copilot, something, so a general Gen AI tool. And then pick one task at a time that you want this tool to help you with. Like, for instance, it could be what I just walked you through, right? It's like, oh, I want to create a piece of content. I need to kind of post something. Use AI for that. Just say, okay, this is what I'm going to do. Prompt AI and have a whole conversation until you feel like the result that came out was good. As you go through that process, I would say focus on one thing to kind of really learn as kind of your skill to learn here, and that's the prompting. And you may feel like, okay, yeah, I got an answer, it's fine, like I'm going to continue on. With prompting, I would say try and experiment with what you get as an answer as you go through fine tuning your prompts. So put a prompt in, see what the result is. Now change your prompt and see what the result is now. And keep in mind these things like make sure that your prompt adds context, give a goal to AI, and keep your target audience in mind if you're working on social media marketing, and sometimes also give it a voice in which it needs to respond. But try to learn that part. How, like, what kind of prompt gives me really good answers? And experiment with that on that one task. So I'm still working on one task that's creating content, but now I'm just going to see how different prompts give me different answers. And over time, you'll learn like, hey, this prompt works really well for me. And then move on to the next task and see how, for instance, ChatGPT can help you with analyzing campaign data. Because I talked about like, oh, you can do all these like very lofty analyses of your data. And that happens inside these tools, like for instance, Meta's Ads Manager. But you can also just take a spreadsheet of data and say upload it to ChatGPT and say to ChatGPT like, hey, I'm trying to improve what I'm doing. This is what I have so far. Can you help suggest ways to improve based on the data that I have? What do you read in my data? And again, try that with prompting. See how far your prompt can get you. And this is another thing. I actually find that, say, even in organic social media marketing, if you've been posting for quite a while and you kind of feel like, hey, this post worked well, that not so much, and trying to put the information in a spreadsheet and give that spreadsheet to ChatGPT and say, like, hey, what do you see? Like, what should I do more of? What should I do less of? What do the data tell you? So those are the types of things that I would start out with. So I would say start small, focus on one use case at a time, and really try to fine tune your prompting approach.
As you were speaking, there were a number of people in the chat just saying how prompting is hard, and
Yeah.
sometimes you just don't get what you're looking for, and you're trying really hard. I agree. Like I think we both agree that sometimes it's really hard to get exactly what you're hoping for to come out when you're trying to prompt using one of these generative AI tools. And I know Uncle, you and I talk about this a lot. That if you have a structure of your prompt that you're always starting with, who's your audience? Like, what is the audience? Like, who's that persona that you're talking to? What are you asking ChatGPT or Gemini to be? Are they a writing assistant, or are they, a friendly editor for you? Like you tell ChatGPT or Gemini or any of them who you want them to be. You ask your question, and then you give them any additional information that you think is necessary for it to give you a great response. And oftentimes you'll start to develop certain templates that you can use over and over again. And that can be a little bit more helpful. The other thing that I do, which is like maybe silly, I will often ask, could I have written this prompt in a better way that I could have gotten a better response? I'll just ask ChatGPT. And it will give me actual information that's usable for me, and I can learn from that too. And I think Anka, you touched upon that as well, like earlier in your talk, that you can use ChatGPT as as a partner and educating yourself on how best to even use it, which is a fun way of approaching it as well. So our next question from learners is actually a really, really important one, and it really deals with what responsibility, the ethics and trust that we have in when we're using these types of tools. So, what responsibility do marketers have to disclose when content has been AI generated?
Yeah, that's a good question because it's I think as marketers we try to really establish trust with our audience, right? And that's ultimately very important. If you don't have the trust of your audience, then your marketing is not going to work, right? On the contrary, you might actually cause problems. So similarly, when you're using AI, um, in some cases, people are going to be able to spot that you used AI. So you want to be transparent about it for that reason. But it's also just a good practice to be transparent when AI is involved in content creation in particular. Now, of course, you don't have to disclose all the time, right? So there are different levels of disclosure. If you've been using AI behind the scenes to generate your content idea, like you brainstormed, you generated a video with AI, you brainstormed again, then you changed the caption slightly, you put some of the hashtags in. You don't always have to put in like, hey, I kind of used AI to get to my final post. But if you're creating content that's really customer facing and that is entirely AI built, and it could be mistaken for human authored content, but it really is built with AI, then it's a good idea to disclose that. And you'll see that many brands already will disclose things with, like, they'll just say, like, this content was created with the assistance of AI. That's perfectly fine to put that on, say, a blog post or even in an ad, or if you in a post or something like that. So you can actually put that in there. And now you may feel like, well, but now my audience is going to think that I took the lazy route or that this is not very creative of me. But I guarantee you that in like a lot of the content that's out there is already created with the assistance of AI. So it's going to be normal. And over time, this is going to be the norm. And everyone is going to find that just normal and fine, because ultimately we all kind of understand that without a good architect behind this or a good strategist, there isn't going to be any content. So there's still a marketer behind this who really steers this in certain directions. And even big brands are really like they're upfront about content being created with AI. So that's okay to do. I think the other thing that you have to keep in mind, of course, is there are other kind of legal and ethical considerations, right? Because there is content out there that may be copyrighted, that is included in training of these AI engines. So, and as a result, it's really good to disclose that you are using AI, so that, yeah, that kind of signals like, hey, I've also relied on content that may have been created by someone else through the fact that I've used an AI tool. So always good to put that in there. You also see that on platforms like TikTok and Meta, that they also encourage to put in a label for AI generated media. So definitely a good idea to disclose it, just to make sure that it doesn't feel deceptive at all. So I would say use AI, but don't hide that you're using it.
We had one question in the chat that I think really follows this one, and then we probably only have time for one more question. But the question was really around using copying content or copying personal customer information, so PII, into a spreadsheet and then putting it into something like ChatGPT.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna quickly say, like, I would definitely be very cautious, and I would say you don't want to share that type of information with a customer facing kind of ChatGPT experience. If you have a privatized generative AI tool that you're using inside a company and you own all of the extensions of it, like you have a hosted uh, extension of a large language model and you're doing generative AI in house, I've seen companies really successfully be able to manage the data controls there. But once you are using an outbound kind of resource, you have to be really careful about what you share. Anka, do you have anything to add to
And
that?
absolutely. I think it's one of these, yes, it is a big responsibility when you use AI tools. So you have to be conscious of the fact that the data that you input in that tool, they kind of find their way to the public space, right? And that becomes dangerous. So if you have information that is private, that should not be out there in the public domain, you should not put that information into a chat tool, just like Rebecca said. Like that's dangerous. If you have a kind of a private instance, like your company's instance, which kind of just typically costs more money, right? So then you have like a wild kind of AI almost, and the information you input stays inside it. That's safer. But I would say definitely be cautious when it comes to personally identifiable information. I would actually say try to mask that before you put data
100%.
into AI. Like, just don't do that at this point.
So we're at time, but I think we have time for one final question, which is really about under your opinion. So what's one AI tool use case you personally find most exciting right now?
Oh, it's a good one because I use more than one. So I'm also gonna say I'm gonna tell you about more than one. One is like very excited about the tools that we use professionally. So here at Aptly, we have what we call our Aptly Workplace, which is basically a tool that lets us automate our workflow for building courses, right? And there's a lot of AI built in, and that helps us kind of generate some of the content. So when you see kind of some of our fake brands, for instance, and so we can generate like some of the images, etc. There's a lot of stuff we can do with AI in the process of generating our courses, and it's an automated tool. It's our own tool, so that one I'm super excited about because we keep building on it. So that's really really cool. I'm also excited about things that are more student facing, right? So we have AI coaches. So you'll see on Coursera's platform, they have an AI coach, for instance. We have our own as well. And that's really just another way to solidify learning, right? Interact with the code, someone who helps you understand the material. So another area of AI that I'm super excited about. And then there's another one in the professional sphere, and that is translations with AI. So you know that now courses often have subtitles. The next step will be that there will be dubbed courses, but they're dubbed in the voice of the teacher, using the tone that the teacher uses, and just the prospect of being able to build a course once and then have it go out globally in many different languages. That just is such a scale improvement. So I'm very excited about that as well. And when it comes to the personal level, I use AI a lot. I use it for things like, say, for instance, travel planning for the family. So I create itineraries where I prompt AI to make sure that it takes into account everyone's preferences, the types of places we like to go to, the types of activities we like to do. And it's gotten like really interesting and beautiful itineraries for me, things that I otherwise would not have explored. We've been able to do it, suggest hikes and like places to go, even restaurants to go to. So I really like that as well. So I use it for many other things, but that's one of the things I'm most excited about.
All right, thank you, everybody. That was our last question that we'll have time for today. We're already a little over time, but thanks to everybody who hung on to the end too. Any last thoughts from the team?
I just want to say we will turn around the recording of this as quickly as we possibly can. There were lots of questions about that in the chats and the Q&A. And as everybody mentioned earlier, if you would like to come join the Aptly Learners Facebook group, you can continue these conversations. We are in those groups. All of us are in that group. So I'm happy to kind of keep the conversation going. I'd love to hear everybody's take on this presentation today and what you guys are using AI for, and maybe what other topics in the future you'd love to see. So join us on the Facebook group. Let us know what you'd like to see. We would love to do more events like this in the future. So thank you guys. Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Thank you so much.